Hollywood has a dark side, a side filled with ruthless egos, shocking betrayals, and scandals that ruined careers. Some of the biggest stars weren't just disliked, they were absolutely hated, from actors who terrorized their co-stars to shocking betrayals that left the public furious. These 25 Hollywood icons earned a reputation they couldn't escape. And trust me, by the end of this list, you'll never see these celebrities the same way again. Clark Gable, a dark Hollywood secret. Clark Gable may have been Hollywood's golden boy, but behind closed doors, his reputation was far from glamorous. In 2015, shocking allegations resurfaced, claiming that Gable had sexually assaulted actress Loretta Young in the 1930s. Young was reportedly forced to hide her pregnancy, later passing off their daughter as adopted. And that's not all. Gable was also infamous for cheating on his wives, harassing co-stars, and using his Hollywood status to silence scandals. While the public once saw him as a suave leading man, his real legacy is far darker. Bette Davis, the queen of feuds. Bette Davis wasn't just a Hollywood legend, she was also one of its most ruthless divas. Known for her sharp tongue and demanding presence, Davis made enemies both on and off set. But her most infamous rivalry was with Joan Crawford. Their hatred was so deep that during the filming of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Davis allegedly kicked Crawford so hard she needed stitches. Crawford got her revenge in a way only a true Hollywood villain could, by sabotaging Davis's Oscar win. She offered to accept the award on behalf of another nominee just to ensure Davis wouldn't get the spotlight. Now that's next-level pettiness. But Davis's feud with Crawford was just the tip of the iceberg. She fought with directors, co-stars, and even producers, earning her a reputation as one of the most hated women in Hollywood. Jean Harlow, the blonde bombshell with a mysterious tragedy. Jean Harlow was Hollywood's original blonde bombshell, famous for her platinum hair and sultry roles. But her personal life took a grim turn when her husband, producer Paul Byrne, was found dead only months after their wedding. Whispers spread that Harlow was either directly involved or knew more than she let on. The studio, desperate to protect its star, spun the story into a tragic he-offed himself narrative. When rumors swirled that Byrne had been killed by a disgruntled ex-lover, Harlow became even more suspect in the public's eyes. This fueled speculation that MGM had covered up evidence to save Harlow from scandal. Later, she had a string of tumultuous affairs, including with the married boxer Max Baer, triggering more lawsuits and sensational headlines. Although Harlow died at just 26 from kidney failure, the swirl of controversy and tragedy left an indelible mark on Hollywood's collective memory. Tallulah Bankhead, the wild rebel. Tallulah Bankhead was everything 1930s Hollywood feared: bold, bisexual, and completely out of control. She was famous for her sharp wit, once telling a director, "I don't need your direction, I need a lover." Her outrageous behavior included stripping at parties, heavy substance abuse, and multiple public affairs with both men and women, something that was unheard of in her time. While she had die-hard fans, Hollywood execs hated her reckless, unpredictable nature. Gloria Swanson, the queen of excess. Gloria Swanson was Hollywood's first true diva. At the height of her fame, she received 10,000 fan letters a week, but behind the glitz and glamour, her extravagant lifestyle made her deeply unpopular. She married 6 times, had high-profile affairs, and spent millions on luxury, even while the rest of the country was struggling through the Great Depression. Her over-the-top spending and controversial relationships led to a massive public backlash, and her popularity plummeted. Judy Garland, a tragic downfall. Judy Garland's life story reads like a tragedy. She shot to superstardom in The Wizard of Oz, only to fall victim to an industry that exploited her from childhood. Studio executives forced her onto pills, uppers to keep her working long hours, and downers so she could sleep. This cyclical drug reliance ultimately morphed into addiction. As the pressures of fame intensified, Garland struggled with chronic anxiety and depression. She began missing shows, showing up late to sets, and suffering unpredictable mood swings. Audiences that once adored her started to see her as a liability who couldn't keep her life together. Tragically, she OD'd at the age of 47, leaving behind an image tainted by personal demons. While she has been reevaluated with sympathy in modern times, many in her own era wrote her off as unprofessional and unreliable. Ingrid Bergman, the affair that ruined her. In the 1940s, Ingrid Bergman was the darling of Hollywood, celebrated for Casablanca and Notorious. Everything changed when news broke that she'd left her husband for Italian director Roberto Rossellini and was expecting his child. At the time, extramarital affairs were career suicide, especially for someone with a wholesome screen image. Americans in the media lashed out cruelly, labeling her a homewrecker and evil. She was barred from major TV programs, boycotted by theaters, and even denounced on the floor of the U.S. Senate as an example of immorality. Though Bergman later returned to Hollywood and rehabilitated her reputation with an Oscar win for Anastasia, she never entirely escaped the fury that had once made her the nation's most hated actress. Charlie Chaplin, predator or genius? Charlie Chaplin may be one of Hollywood's greatest filmmakers, but his personal life was beyond disturbing. He had a pattern of marrying teenage girls, with one of his wives being just 16 when he was 35. If that wasn't enough, his alleged communist ties during the McCarthy era led to his exile from the U.S. Once a Hollywood legend, Chaplin's reputation was permanently tarnished by scandal. Kirk Douglas, the darkest allegation. Kirk Douglas was seen as a hero for breaking the Hollywood blacklist, but his legacy was stained by a much darker secret. Decades after his death, rumors resurfaced that he had assaulted a young Natalie Wood when she was just a teenager. Though never confirmed, the accusations spread like wildfire, permanently tainting his once respected name. Louis B. Mayer, the most hated man in Hollywood. No one controlled Hollywood like Louis B. Mayer. As the head of MGM, he shaped careers but also destroyed them. He forced young actresses into contracts that controlled every aspect of their lives, manipulated stars like Judy Garland with drugs, and silenced anyone who tried to fight back. He may have built MGM into a powerhouse, but his iron grip made him one of the most feared and hated figures in Hollywood history. George Raft, the tough guy who couldn't stay out of fights. George Raft gained attention playing gangsters on screen, but lived out that tough guy persona in real life. Known for his willingness to resort to physical altercations, he once allowed co-star Wallace Beery to land the first punch in a stage fight scene, only to be knocked out cold by Beery's actual blow. Outraged upon regaining consciousness, Raft had to be physically restrained from seeking revenge. His scrapes with studio execs were just as explosive, often sparked by Raft's refusal to take certain roles or appear in scenes he disliked. His penchant for walking off the set led tabloids to call him the authority on walkouts. Though some fans found his rebellious streak charming, industry insiders branded him a hothead who couldn't adapt to studio expectations, causing him to miss out on key opportunities. Ava Gardner, the fiery spirit who defied tradition. Ava Gardner's beauty captivated the public, but it was her free-spirited defiance that turned her into a polarizing figure. She married 3 prominent men, Mickey Rooney, Artie Shaw, and Frank Sinatra, but engaged in affairs that led to explosive tabloid headlines. She drank hard, partied even harder, and refused to live by anyone's rules. Gardner openly complained about Hollywood's hypocrisy, calling the industry a big circus and mocking the expectation that female stars must behave with ladylike restraint. This rebellious energy gave her a cult following, but also an equal number of detractors. Studio heads found her refusal to play nice unmanageable, while her personal life, filled with dramatic confrontations and rumored physical fights, constantly overshadowed her on-screen success. Marlene Dietrich, branded a traitor by her homeland. Marlene Dietrich soared to fame in the early 1930s with hits like The Blue Angel and Shanghai Express. As the Nazi regime rose in Germany, she denounced Hitler and refused every offer the regime made to lure her back home. Instead, Dietrich publicly supported the Allies, helped raise war bonds, and performed for American soldiers overseas. While she became a symbol of free expression and anti-Nazi resistance in the U.S., Germany labeled her a traitor. Many Germans spat at the mere mention of her name, claiming she'd betrayed her people by becoming an American citizen. Dietrich's bold stance, combined with her boundary-pushing fashion, like wearing men's suits, divided public opinion. Though revered for her artistic innovation, she became downright despised by certain factions that never forgave her defiance. Laurence Olivier, the prideful powerhouse. Laurence Olivier was heralded as one of Britain's greatest actors, especially in Shakespearean roles. But behind that polish, he could be shockingly critical of others. Taped interviews released posthumously revealed him calling esteemed co-stars amateurs and belittling even Marilyn Monroe, though he later admitted she was fantastic on film. These biting remarks only confirm rumors that Olivier behaved like an elitist on set, offering unsolicited critiques and complaining when others didn't meet his lofty standards. He even mocked fellow Shakespearean legend John Gielgud's acting style, describing it as operatic. Many revered his talent, but hated his arrogance. That arrogant streak, once hidden from the public, finally exploded into view with the release of private tapes, tarnishing his once untouchable status. Rita Hayworth, the pin-up star with a chaotic personal life. Rita Hayworth was once Hollywood's ultimate bombshell, captivating audiences in Gilda. Yet her off-screen life was marred by mismanagement, controlling partners, and multiple failed marriages. She married Orson Welles, then Prince Ali Khan, and found neither relationship could withstand her personal demons or the spotlight's intense scrutiny. Her finances were often mishandled, and she struggled under Columbia Pictures' control, which marketed her relentlessly while offering little real support. Hayworth's love affairs with co-stars, rumored secret pregnancies, and behind-the-scenes blow-ups soured her reputation among industry insiders. Over time, tabloids painted her as a cautionary tale, a glamorous star undone by heartbreak, manipulation, and an addiction to the bad boy types who repeatedly took advantage of her fame. John Barrymore, an icon's prejudice revealed. John Barrymore was from a legendary acting family, revered for his Shakespearean performances, and hailed as one of early Hollywood's greatest talents. But one ugly incident shattered that luster. A 10-minute fistfight in 1928 sparked by Barrymore's slur against producer Myron Selznick's Jewish heritage. The brawl at the Ambassador Hotel made headlines, casting Barrymore in a very different light. Suddenly, fans and colleagues had to reconcile the charismatic star with a man capable of hateful remarks. He refused to clarify or deny the allegations, allowing rumors of anti-Semitism to intensify. Though Barrymore continued to act, his public image was never quite the same. Many in Hollywood blacklisted him socially, and his personal battles with alcoholism only drove the final nails into his tarnished legacy. Barbara Stanwyck, fiercely right-wing and anti-union. Barbara Stanwyck came from a background of extreme poverty, losing her parents at a young age and surviving a rough upbringing. One might expect her to champion collective rights, but instead she became known for her staunch anti-union stance and alignment with controversial political figures. She despised the idea of Hollywood unions, resisted joining the Screen Actors Guild until it was unavoidable, and befriended individuals who opposed President Franklin D. Roosevelt's policies, earning her the hostility of many liberal peers. Though she was praised for her naturalistic acting in Double Indemnity and Stella Dallas, Stanwyck's fiercely conservative worldview clashed with the left-leaning Hollywood climate. She further ruffled feathers by openly criticizing welfare programs and endorsing certain extremist ideologies. Over time, these positions overshadowed her talent, with many fans condemning her for what they saw as a betrayal of her own impoverished roots. Vivien Leigh, tragedy and turmoil. Vivien Leigh reached the pinnacle of stardom with Gone with the Wind and A Streetcar Named Desire, but her personal struggles made her notoriously difficult on set. Misdiagnosed mental health issues and the cocktails of medication she was prescribed, especially for tuberculosis, contributed to her erratic mood swings, breakdowns, and on-set blow-ups. Directors found themselves halting production when Leigh's hallucinations intensified. She often mixed alcohol with her TB meds, further destabilizing her mental state. Rumors circulated about her bursting into tears or rage without warning. Sir Laurence Olivier, her husband for 20 years, tried to shield her from bad press, but her volatile nature became an open secret. Hollywood, which had once adored her delicate beauty and formidable talent, grew impatient with her unpredictable outbursts, branding her as difficult and ultimately ushering her career into decline. Shelley Winters, method acting taken too far. Shelley Winters was a committed method actor, but her determination to truly live her roles sometimes led to chaos on set. Her behavior during the filming of What's the Matter with Helen rattled co-star Debbie Reynolds so much that Reynolds insisted on using a fake knife for a confrontation scene, fearing Winters might accidentally injure her. Winters was experiencing a real-life mental breakdown during that time, directly conflicting with her psychiatrist's advice to avoid intense roles. She often showed up deeply immersed in character, failing to snap back to reality when the camera stopped rolling. Many who worked with her admired her talent, but found the experience emotionally exhausting. Off-screen, her unpredictable antics, drastic mood swings, and sudden outbursts only solidified her reputation as someone even colleagues found hard to handle. Olivia de Havilland, the sisterly feud that never ended. Olivia de Havilland's portrayal of sweet heroines like Melanie in Gone with the Wind made her appear angelic to fans. But behind the scenes, her bitter rivalry with younger sister Joan Fontaine was anything but saintly. The two vied for roles, awards, and social standing throughout their careers, with some blaming Olivia for instigating many of their fights. They competed for the same roles, sabotaged each other's careers, and even ignored one another for decades. Their rivalry was so intense that even after Joan's death, Olivia refused to make amends. Fans saw her coldness as ruthless, making her one of Hollywood's most divisive figures. Katharine Hepburn, arrogant and unapologetic. Katharine Hepburn didn't care what anyone thought of her, and that's exactly why so many people despised her. She openly admitted to being self-absorbed, looked down on her co-stars, and refused to follow Hollywood's unwritten rules. She had an affair with the married Spencer Tracy, dismissed her first husband like a footnote, and once called an entire generation of actresses cattle. When directors criticized her acting, she laughed in their faces. But while her talent was undeniable, her arrogance made her one of Hollywood's least liked stars. William Holden, a star sinking under scandal. William Holden exemplified the classic leading man in films like Sunset Boulevard and Stalag 17. But behind the scenes, his escalating drinking problem and numerous affairs took a toll on his reputation. One particularly damaging scandal involved an affair with Grace Kelly during filming. When tabloids outed their romance, Holden's carefully curated image took a major hit. Ignoring medical advice to stop drinking due to hepatitis, Holden plunged deeper into alcohol abuse, showed up late or inebriated on set, and feuded with Paramount executives. His personal life was in shambles. He left his family for days at a time, fueling rumors of further infidelity. Colleagues found him increasingly difficult to work with, and the press hammered him for his recklessness. Though he held on to stardom for a while, many fans turned against him, seeing him as the epitome of old Hollywood's rampant hypocrisy. Lee Marvin, brutality on and off screen. Lee Marvin carved out a niche playing tough guys, but in reality, he lived up to that reputation in unsettling ways. During the Wild One shoot, Marvin learned to ride motorcycles for his role opposite Marlon Brando, and he later raced them professionally. His character's brutal coffee-throwing scene in The Big Heat became so notorious that some viewers believed Marvin was a genuine menace. Off-camera, Marvin's temper and chaotic personal life further inflamed his reputation. He engaged in an affair with actress Anne Bancroft while married, and his partying frequently erupted into public spats. On one occasion, a card game at Vivien Leigh's home ended with Marvin tearing up an antique deck of cards in a rage. Though some admired his raw masculinity, many found him unpredictable, dangerous, and impossible to tame. Lupe Velez, jealousy, rage, and volatile affairs. Lupe Velez was a Mexican actress who quickly gained fame in Hollywood's golden age. Dubbed the Mexican Spitfire, her intense temperament became legendary. She famously had an affair with Gary Cooper, during which she physically attacked him with a knife in a jealous rage. Another incident saw her humiliating him in public by tugging open his pants to sniff for another woman's perfume. Beyond her love life, Velez's feuds with actresses like Greta Garbo and Katharine Hepburn made headlines. She was known to spark conflicts with anyone she felt threatened by, once confronting child star Judy Garland for no apparent reason. While her passion and comedic flair earned her devoted fans, her violent outbursts and frequent breakdowns created a legion of haters. Tragically, she ended up taking her own life, reportedly mixing pills with alcohol, intensifying her reputation as a tortured soul overshadowed by scandal. Fredric March, a case of mistaken allegiance. Fredric March was a respected stage and screen actor, winning multiple Oscars. Yet a controversy erupted over his college days at the University of Wisconsin. In 1919, he briefly belonged to a student group called the Ku Klux Klan, which was not affiliated with the actual KKK, but had a troubling name. Decades later, when pictures and documents surfaced, many assumed March had ties to a hate group. Schools stripped his name from theaters and social media condemnation came fast. But deeper research showed that March was, in fact, a staunch civil rights advocate who championed many progressive causes. Despite evidence clearing him of racism, the damage was done. A large swath of the public condemned him without nuance, labeling him a supremacist based solely on the group's unfortunate name. Though some institutions have started to reinstate honors in his name, the stigma remains a part of his Hollywood legacy. From brutal feuds to horrifying scandals, these Hollywood stars left behind a legacy that wasn't just about fame, but infamy. Some fought back, some disappeared into obscurity, and others remained controversial even after their deaths. But now it's your turn. Who do you think was the most hated Hollywood figure? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, because our next video is going to expose even more Hollywood secrets that you won't believe.